So the last question I have for you is, I want you to speak to, I didn't have it on my list, so it's impromptu. I want you to speak to the transitional difficulties as a student. What, as a teacher, the mindset change that you had to come about, the proclivities you had to push down in yourself, and we're talking about getting students to sit up and not do this and that. They're pushing down their own proclivities, but I think teachers, they don't always think about how they themselves need to push down their own proclivities to change the dynamic of the room. So I'm asking you about some of those things, some of those feelings you had to push down, some of those things you had to beef up, some of the changes in attitude that you had to come to help you make this as successful as it clearly is.
I think the process of me getting to this point actually started several years ago when I was still in the elementary school, and cooperative learning was one of our focuses for the year. That was very difficult for me initially because of releasing control. I'm a very structured person. I like for things to be organized, and in my mind, when I will put the students in these groups and just let them go, who's going to be off task? If I'm working with a small group, I can't look at everybody else. So I think that also fits with this discourse model. You have to be able to release some of the control and realize that it may take a turn that you didn't plan for. The lesson may go off track. And I think for teachers, that's difficult, because if it's something that you didn't plan for, or a question that comes up that you're not sure about how to answer, especially with middle school math, sometimes the questions the students ask, I'm like, that's a great question. And sometimes I'm unable to answer it, and I'll say, I'm not really sure. And then I'll open that up to the kids, especially if it's a relevant question, and let them talk about it, and then maybe say, I'm going to go check that out, and we'll come back to it tomorrow if that comes up. But releasing control is one of the major things that has to be done. Also, being open and willing to fight the battle that's going to happen at the beginning. The kids fought against it a lot, to the point where I was like, this isn't going to work. I know they said this could work, it's not. It was frustrating that I could not get these kids to talk, like even about the other, just random stuff. But realizing that starting to see small steps, and then one day the light bulb just went off, and they got it, and they were able to discuss, and they were leading. So
it was a slow trickle to synergy.
It was.
It looked like it wasn't ever going to happen, and then suddenly.
Right.
Okay.
And so just knowing that this doesn't just happen. They didn't just come in being able to do this. It was really intentionally taught, and kept teaching. I kept teaching, and I'm even now still have to remind kids about tone, still have to remind them at times we can't all talk at once.
Right.
And
well,
usually
you're one of 8 classes.
Yes.
So that may not be supported in all the classes, and they come back with mixed norms and have to remember.
They do. And even I still have kids raise hands. When we're discussing as a class, I try not to do the raising hands.
Yeah.
We're going to discuss. If somebody else starts talking, somebody needs to back up and just wait till they get theirs. Another thing, to teach the kids how to discuss was a difficult part, because they're used to just wanting to say their point instead of responding to others. So being able to teach that, and
they participated, right? Yeah. The old models. I've been quiet. I raise my hand. I participate. Now I'm good.
I think the answer is 20. I think the answer is 40. And another thing the kids will do that I still have to remind them about. Do you think? I'll ask them, do you think, or what do you think this is? And they'll say their answer, and then somebody will say a different answer, and then they'll just repeat the answer back and forth. Like, that's going to convince people that they're right just by saying the answer over and over again. So I think as a teacher, just understanding that it's a process that I might have to continue throughout the entire year, but just trying different things. Like I said, we just a couple weeks ago started with the circles, because I saw that the kids weren't able to stepped back from being a hog,
Mm-hmm.
and that some kids weren't able to participate
It's
in the
exciting to
conversation.
show what you know, and especially when a group is safe.
Right.
So I bet that those strong voices got even stronger because they carried the conversation
Right.
initially, and then they got used to that role.
Right.
So there was it. So now they're, I mean, that's really powerful if you think about it. It's like, okay, so I'm leading a group. Now the group is starting to follow my lead. How do I lead less? You know, to coin the Obama phrase, lead from behind. But the notion of it doesn't all have to come out of my mouth and my brain, and it's still
Right.
leadership.
Right.
So-
Right, and I was going to say also another thing that is difficult for the kids, and I just went blank. When they're talking to each other, it's difficult for them sometimes to, I went blank, I had it in my head.
That's all right. Is it about the way they speak to each other when they disagree?
It was more on what the teachers need to do,
Well, we can come back to it.
if I think
If,
of
if,
it.
if you think of it, just
Yeah.
blurt it out, because there's so many things that go into this model.
It is.
You know, trying to articulate them all and making sure you got them all is no easy
It
task, I'm
is.
sure.
And you just have to kind of go with the flow and see where your kids are at and where they need to be, and try to come up with different tools that will help them. And that's one thing that I looked at.
Stellar. Thank you so much. It's going to be so useful, a great tool, and I'm really happy you worked with me on this. And again, I do want to come back and catch that other group.
Just come
Let them
anytime.
see the dynamic that group had to offer as well. So thank you again, and I guess that's it.
All right.